I never thought I would be the kind of woman who calls the police on her own son-in-law, but some moments in life don't ask for permission, they just arrive like a storm, and you either stand in it, or you get swept away. My name is Evelyn Harper, I'm 71 years old and this is the winter everything changed. It started on a Tuesday in early December. The snow was coming down soft and quiet the way it does in upstate New York, and I was in my kitchen making the one I've stood in for 43 years, rolling out dough for cinnamon rolls the way my mother taught me. The radio was playing low some old Nat King Cole Christmas song and I felt peaceful. For the first time in months my husband Richard had passed 2 years earlier, and the house felt too big. But it was mine, paid off decades ago with his pension and my nursing salary, and I had learned to love the quiet. Then the front door slammed so hard the windows shook, and there he was, Brandon, my daughter Melissa's husband of 6 years, standing in my hallway, snow melting off his boots onto my hardwood floors. He didn't even look at me, just barked. Melissa said, "You weren't using the car today, I'm taking it." The car, he meant my car, the pearl white 2018 Toyota Camry I bought brand new the day I retired, the one with heated seats, and only 28,000 miles, the one I still polished every Saturday like it was a baby. He didn't wait for an answer, just snatched the keys from the hook by the door, the hook that has been there since 1987, and walked out. I stood there with flour on my hands and my heart beating too fast. Melissa came in a minute later, eyes on the floor, carrying their toddler on her hip. "I'm so sorry, Mom, he had a job interview across town, and his truck wouldn't start. I'll bring it back tonight, I promise." But tonight came and went and the car did not. Days turned into weeks. Brandon started driving my car every single day to work, to the bar, to pick up his friends. He'd pull into my driveway, blast the horn like I was his chauffeur, and yell, "Grandma, hurry up, I'm double parked." When I'd come out too slow, he'd roll his eyes and mutter, "Useless old lady," under his breath, but loud enough for me to hear. Melissa stopped looking me in the eye. She just whispered, "He's stressed, Mom, please don't make it worse." I started sleeping in the guest room now, because Brandon said my snoring kept him awake in the master bedroom, the bedroom I shared with Richard for 40 years. He moved my clothes into garbage bags and stacked them in the hallway like trash. One night I came downstairs for water and heard them arguing in the kitchen, Brandon's voice sharp and mean, "This house is gonna be ours anyway. When the old but finally kicks it, we just have to wait her out." Melissa's voice small, "Just be patient, baby, please." I stood in the dark hallway holding my glass so tight I thought it would shatter, and something inside me that had been shrinking for years suddenly stopped. The next morning I did what any 71-year-old retired nurse does when she decides she's done being invisible. I got dressed, put on my good coat, the camel one Richard bought me in 1995, and I walked to the county clerk's office, the one I used to bring cookies to every Christmas, because I knew every single person who worked there. I filed a change of address for all my mail. I opened a new bank account at a different bank. I took my name off the joint account Melissa had talked me into years ago, and then I went to the DMV, and I reported my car stolen. The officer behind the glass raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure it was stolen?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Yes, so my son-in-law took it without permission 3 weeks ago, and he refuses to return it. Here's the title, here's the registration, here's the spare key I never gave him." They put out a bolo, "Be on the lookout" within the hour. That evening the snow was coming down harder, and I was sitting in my living room, the one with the big window that looks out on the street, wrapped in my late husband's old cardigan, drinking tea, when I saw the red and across the driveway. Like always, he stepped out laughing on his phone, didn't even notice the officers until one of them said, "So step away from the vehicle." He started yelling, "That's my mother-in-law's car, she lets me use it, she's old, she forgets." The officer asked for license and registration. Brandon reached into the glove box and pulled out came my insurance card with only my name on it, my registration with only my name on it. I watched from the window as they handcuffed him right there in my driveway in front of the neighbors, who had started gathering with their phones out. He kept screaming, "She's a liar, she gave me permission, she's senile, call my wife." So they called Melissa. She came running out in her pajamas, hair a mess, crying, "Please officers, it's a misunderstanding, my mom's just confused, she's getting dementia." That's when I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch in my slippers, the cold biting through my socks. I walked down the steps slow and steady and looked Brandon right in his red angry face, and said, "Officer, that man has never had permission to drive my car. He took the keys without asking. He has been verbally abusing me for months, and last week he moved me out of my own bedroom. I want to press full charges." The neighbors gasped. Melissa started sobbing. Brandon's face went purple, screaming, "You bitter old hag, you're gonna regret this." But the officers, they just looked at me with something like respect, and one of them said, "We are going to need you to come down to the station to fill out some paperwork." I went inside, put on my boots and my good coat, and I rode in the front seat of the patrol car like a queen. At the station they took my statement. They took photos of the bruises on my arms, where he had grabbed me the week before when I asked for my car keys back. They played the voicemail he left me 2 days earlier, screaming, "I'm keeping the goddamn car, you useless old lady, do you hear me?" By midnight Brandon was in a holding cell, charged with unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, theft by taking an elder, abuse, because in the state of New York verbally and financially abusing someone over 65 is a crime. Melissa showed up at the station hysterical, begging me to drop the charges. "Mom, please, he'll lose his job. We have a baby." I looked at her, tears streaming down her face, and I felt my heart crack. But I did not soften. I said, "Melissa, you stood by while he called me names, while he took my car, my bedroom, my peace. You chose him over me every single day. Now you get to live with that choice." I went home alone in a cab. The house was silent, and it was glorious. The next morning I changed the locks. I had the spare key to my Camry in my hand, and I drove it myself. For the first time in months, I took it through the car wash. I filled the tank. I parked it in the garage, and I locked the door. Melissa moved out a week later with the baby and 2 suitcases. She left a note on the kitchen counter. "I am so sorry, Mom. I didn't see it until it was too late. I hope one day you can forgive me." I didn't answer. I just put the note in the fireplace and watched it burn. Spring came early that year. The snow melted and the tulips I planted with Richard 30 years ago came up brighter than ever. I joined a gym. I bought myself a new red coat. I started having coffee with the widows from church on Thursdays, and we laughed louder than we had in years. Sometimes at night I sit in my living room. The one Brandon said was his, and I turn the volume up as loud as I want on whatever I want, and I think about that moment on the porch when I finally spoke up. I wasn't shaking, I wasn't crying, I was calm, clear, and unstoppable. And I learned something at 71 that I wish I had known at 30. Your voice doesn't get weaker with age. It gets stronger when you finally decide to use it. So if you're watching this and someone is treating you like you're invisible, like your years make you less, like your home, your car, your life don't belong to you anymore, remember Evelyn Harper. Remember that the police will come. Remember that the law is on your side. And remember that peace, real peace, is worth any storm. I got my car back. I got my house back. And most important, I got myself back. And no one will ever call me useless again. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped even one of you find your voice, then every tear, every sleepless night was worth it. I am Evelyn. And this is my home. And the volume is exactly where I want it.